Hey Health Seekers, it's Kate Shamarani here, natural nurse in a toxic world, and I'm here at sunset really, and the sky is literally full of chemtrails, not contrails, they're chemtrails. There's a gentleman actually just said it to me. He says they're definitely not contrails, and he said he would know that. Anyway, here we are. We keep hearing from lots of people around the world about this second wave. Well, I'm still looking for the first wave. That first wave where they told us millions were going to die, and they built the Nightingale Hospital in London, and everywhere was shut down all over the world. Shut down for a virus that, if indeed the pandemic, kills under 1%. And most of those that die, in fact, all of them had pre-existing comorbidities. They had pre-existing health conditions, diabetes, cancer. Then we heard lots from everybody where their relatives were having COVID put on the death certificate, even though they died of something completely unrelated. So that's all been going on, and now we're hearing, like I'm saying, about the second wave. Now we're told, I believe it was Ireland yesterday, that if they don't wear a mask, they can face a prison sentence and a large fine. The point about the large fine is quite interesting, because as everybody's starting to feel that sting of unemployment, and it's going to get really big. We were told 10%, and we were told 20%, and it was mentioned in the news 30%. There's going to be a lot of people unemployed, so I don't know how they're going to get these fines paid. And then come October time, then you've got all of the people that haven't paid their rent, are not protected anymore, and they'll be evicted. And then you have the same with all of the mortgages that haven't been paid. The furlough, the companies have been offered £1,000 to keep the furlough going till January per employee. And then that ends, so you're going to have a lot more businesses unemployed. Anyway, then we're told, you know, about the masks and rely on science. That's rubbish. First of all, nanoparticles go straight through a mask. So then we're told, well, we're wearing the masks for other people's health. So I offended lots of people today when I pointed out someone extremely overweight, wearing a mask and standing outside the chip shop. Well, it's not really, someone said I was fat shaming. Really? You have people all over now putting videos up, mask shaming or social distance shaming. If you come near me, I can't wear a mask. I've got a pre-existing condition that I need to breathe. But if you come near me and ask me why I'm not wearing a mask and you're well overweight, I'm going to name it. Because if I'm supposed to protect your health, you're supposed to protect your health. And if you're eating all different junk foods, I've seen the queue at McDonald's. It goes right around the perimeter road. Should anybody be eating that? If you're so concerned about your health, you're wearing a mask. You shouldn't be eating that food. It's full of salt. Then all the soft drinks. Now we've heard, and the government's giving 50% vouchers to these big companies like Pizza Hut that's worth over 8 billion, I think it is. So what? I think it's 8 billion, can't be a million, 8 billion. So what, they're getting subsidised when people are using food banks, and the people using food banks won't be able to afford to go out for meals. So shouldn't the government be giving the food, giving the money, the 50% to those that can't even afford to buy food from the supermarkets? So going back to the science, we're told to rely on doctors and scientists because they know it's science. No, it's not. Let me tell you a few things about that science. When a doctor decides what drug he's going to put you on, it's not always the same drug as the doctor down the road with the same condition. It'll be whatever pharmaceutical company has been in and given them incentives to use that drug. And they do get incentives. They get equipment for their practices. And all these doctors' surgeries are privately owned, run as profit-making businesses now. So when they do vaccines, the more that they can do, they can put their chitty in to the government at the end of that time, and then they'll get a load of money for the amount that they've done, an invoice, and then they buy the vaccines bulk at cost price. So they're making a lot of profit on these. So now you get the phone call or you get the letter, it's time to come for your flu vaccine. So whereas it used to be years ago that you presented at your doctor when you were sick, now it's like a business. They're like a salesman. They're getting you in when you're not even sick. Come and have this done so you won't get sick, and trust me, no one needs a flu vaccine. Watch my video on it. So back to science. There's about 18,000 diseases that doctors don't even know how to cure or why you get them. Then there's all your things that doctors call syndromes. Irritable bowel syndrome, it just means they haven't got a name for it. You know, sickness, diarrhea, cramping, constipation, bloating, and they'll call it irritable bowel syndrome. When I get patients in with that, I change all their diet, get them on supplements, get them on digestive enzymes, diet and detox, and it goes away. So there you are. So all these papers that are written, often they're getting a great big budget from the company that makes the drug, and then they give it to whoever's going to do the trial, and they know the result they need from that. So they'll make sure they get that result. Otherwise, they're not going to get the next lot of money for the next trials, and they'll shut down. And then the papers get written on that. So remember who owns the medical elite? Big Pharma. They decide who gets the top jobs. They decide what gets written. You try and refute it, you'll lose your job, lose your livelihood, lose your reputation, and you can lose your life. So back to that science. When we're looking at trials, a third of the patients on a trial given the placebo will get better on their own just by the power of the mind. But no, they discount that because that's not science. It's not science at all. We've got to listen to the science. So you think when they talk about studies that these are going to be vast. It might be just 8 patients in that study, and it might be for, say, they're given an oncology drug to see if a tumour shrinks. Now that tumour might well shrink. So after that several months of drug trial, that drug will be deemed a success. But what might happen is because of that drug, the disease process is speeded up and those patients all die even earlier. But because the tumour shrank, and that's what the drug was for, that drug's now a success. That's how it works. When they talk about percentages, you assume it's a huge proportion of the population. It's not. It might just be 100 people, and they might say 80% got better. Well, you think, well, that's a lot. But imagine they put that out to 100,000 or even just 1,000. That percentage is going to go down. It's all a massive con. So a lot of the science that's behind it isn't real. They don't even know. They're using all different drugs. And then there's the absolute classic, come and use our drug, all the drug reps, and you get to go to a drug conference, but it's not in Milton Keynes or Birmingham. Oh no, it's in Antigua. And you get to go for 2 weeks. Oh, and you can bring your family. And you go to the conference one day, and the rest is you holidaying. I actually know a senior consultant, very famous. He's always on the telly. And he actually goes away constantly. He's all over the world putting videos on his timeline of him doing safaris and this. That's all paid for by Big Pharma. And he once said to me, oh, you're so intelligent, you should write a book. I don't think his motives were about my intelligence, incidentally, but hey-ho. But anyway, he's not my friend anymore because I spoke out against the plandemic. So shallow. Anyway, he said I said, what do you do with your cancer patients? Do you put them on all this plant-based diet? Do you stop them having animal protein? Which in a proper science study, Thomas Tolberg proved that when you eat animal protein, your T lymphocytes go down. You need those cells to kill tumours. When you limit animal protein, they rise exponentially. So he said, no, we don't do that. And I myself have seen what patients eat, even when they're having chemo pumped into them, cakes, cups of tea and coffee. That's in the suites where they're delivering chemotherapy, not the suites you eat, the actual places where you have your chemotherapy. And then they get them to ring a bell and they give them a certificate like children once they've had all of this mustard gas pumped into them. Onto that, I read a study, 92,000 patients, all different cancers, and they all had chemotherapy. And how many were alive at 10 years? Under 3%. So when your doctor says to you, using science, if you don't have this treatment, you'll die within 18 months. Ask him for the studies of where they took all those patients, gave half of them the drug, half of them didn't have the drug, and within 18 months, they were all dead. There won't be any studies for that. So that's not science, is it? That's his opinion or her opinion. So when they say to you, here's your treatment, you need to ask, can I have the 2-year, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year survival figures, disease-free? Not you're still alive and crippled with cancer on 25 different drugs, not even living a life. You want to know what it's like, disease-free. So that is your science. And let me tell you, I didn't learn almost all of what I talk about when I went to nursing school back in '84. And I did my nurse prescriber course 2 years ago. And all that taught me was how dangerous pharmaceutical drugs are. They're in the top 3 causes of death, along with heart disease and cancer. So my friend here, who is videoing me, my faithful camera buddy, dog walker, we were having a conversation on the way in about the cases. And we all know that the amount of elderly that died during this unlawful lockdown is even greater than last year, and they didn't die of this COVID-19. And we were trying to work out on the way in, we were trying to work out is it 7,000 die every week? 9,000 people last year died every week of all different things in the UK. And how many have died of COVID?
Max 300 a day, I believe.
300 a day? Okay, so 9,000 last week, 300 a day. And what was the figure that they said died at the height?
Yeah, I think it was 22,000 in week 23.
Of the unlawful lockdown?
Yeah.
23,000 in week 23.
Yeah, or 22,000.
22,000. We won't split hairs. So if only 300 of those were COVID, where's the other 10,000 coming from? Is that the 10,000 that we make up from elderly that died behind the door because they starved because they didn't know how to do internet shopping? Elderly that died of pure neglect? Elderly that died of lots of other things? People that died because they didn't get their cancer treatment? People that committed suicide because they couldn't cope with what's going on? For something that has a less than 1% death rate, and they tend to be in all the people with comorbidities, and you're asking me to wear a mask to protect you, especially if you're running around and you're really overweight and you're one of the ones queuing at the 2 McDonald's that are in my small town? Really? Plandemic, scandemic. I sit again in front of the Board of Nursing, the Nursing Midwifery Council, this week on Tuesday, because 48 hours after the decision that they took at the third hearing, in my absence, without presenting any evidence from 20-something complaints, people that I actually knew years ago. I'm telling you, friends say, who needs enemies? Those very people, with all the millions that have followed me and all the teaching videos I do, look out for my new video coming tomorrow on the thyroid. For anyone that's had the gallbladder out and you've got thyroid problems, you need to watch this one. I sit again 48 hours after the decision to suspend me for telling the truth, for healing people. I sit again because they made the decision 48 hours later to review it. I wonder why. Anyway, I'll keep you all updated and spreading the word and not the disease. Have a good day.